we should. Hello, so welcome to this live event. And this is a really actually exciting day for us, and especially because this is our first time going live, and we have this amazing guest from First Memory, Alex and Desiree. And we're going to talk about why we do what we do, and what's that? Why we do what we do, including our healing journey stories, and then finding the meaning in our lives.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So let's start with I'm gonna just jump in and ask you guys what you guys do. Just briefly tell us what you do.
We know, but the audience doesn't.
Yeah.
So we really integrate a number of embodiment practices along with some very ancient shamanic practices. We're both lineage carriers from a very, very old tradition that comes from Peru. And we integrate that with weightlifting and a number of other, like I said, embodiment practices as a way to heal trauma and as a way to get people connected with their body and with the earth, really. So in a nutshell, it's really about empowerment, and it's a holistic way of looking at the mind-body relationship.
And some of the specializations are nutrition coaching, mobility coaching, personal training, which we feel all of this is very important and integrative to healing our trauma and connecting to the earth.
Yeah, it's very, very unique approach, I would say, right? Using body to not like a medication, but using your own body to heal your own wound, right?
Yeah.
So that's great. And so why you start doing this? What is the story behind you came to this approach and start helping other people heal?
You can go first.
All right. So I would say when I was about 15 years old, my mom was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. And I was told by her doctors, like her psychotherapist and her regular doctor, that there was a 99% chance that I would be disabled. And they said, they had me reading literature, and they said, you're just going to have a hard life. You need to expect that. So at first I was like very rebellious. I'm like, that's not going to happen to me. And then as soon as I started to get sick, I was like researching and figuring stuff out. And, I tried many doctors, and I also had a ton of PTSD as well from, losing a sibling when I was just 13, and also growing up without front teeth. I really felt a lot of shame to speak. So what I did is I just constantly sought out experts and information to get out of these different situations. And I found along the way that we can really heal just about anything we put our minds to and we put our hearts to. But it just takes an integrative approach. So for me, I just feel like, I suffered a lot, but it was unnecessary to some extent. But it sent me on that trajectory that we can heal. And I want to share that message to others who are also struggling. So that's why I do it.
Yeah, you're 15, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. You were so young, and lots of 15 teenager would just get depressed and just accept, okay, I'm gonna be like that, and then I'm gonna have a miserable life, and then they live that life, right? But you are wise and strong, and you believed in your power, healing power, and then you just kept going, and you're here, and you stayed away from what doctor said, and then now you proved yourself that you don't have to go take the path that doctor gave you, and then you can create your own healthy path, and then you're sharing that with other people, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a tremendous amount of power in an integrative approach, right?
Hmm.
The way that you described, you're looking at different disciplines and bringing them together, looking around to find answers. So many people find themselves in similar situations where they're kind of at the limits of what Western medical, the Western medical approach can provide. It does wonders in what it does, but there's limits, and we're seeing that a lot these days with a lot of autoimmune disorders, like you mentioned, fibromyalgia, and so many other things, right? And the psychology comes in, like you mentioned, about how you had self-image issues, right? And that hits so many young people, some young women in particular, right? And that can have tremendous impact on health if it's taking away your energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
If it's sapping you, and you feel like there's no hope or whatever, you're not worth, something better, whatever the case may be.
Hmm.
It's unfortunate how people suffer with all that stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
like Satomi mentioned, I mean, the two of you are just like two of the most powerful people that I know.
Mm-hmm.
Just like seriously, it's so. The audience obviously has just met you, and we've known you for quite a while now. But you have so much of you're so authentic to yourselves, right? And you practice what you preach, and you're dedicated, you're disciplined. But you do this. You have an incredible regimen that you do every single day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just that alone, that's a
Mm-hmm.
story right there, right? So yeah, I'm blown away really by what you guys have
Mm-hmm.
accomplished and what you do and why you do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it really wasn't easy at all. It's like there's so much suffering that goes into the transformation because, for a long time, you don't know if you're going to make it. And eventually you just get to the point where
Yeah.
you're like, you know what? I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm going to take my diet more seriously. I'm going to take my relationships more seriously. I'm going to pray, meditate. I'm going to do everything in my power to establish good health. And I think that's what the journey does is it breaks you down until you surrender and you start to really just align yourself with healing.
Yeah, like I know you hit the wall, and okay, it's not working. Sometimes you feel that feeling like I don't know this is working, and I've done so much, and I'm still feeling this sickness, and it gets in your head, and then okay, I'm gonna stay sick, right? It could
Mhm.
come in, but no, that's a lie. That's not true, and then you're gonna keep working on it. And some like you guys, I know with your clients, you because you know they can do it, and then you can be the supporter and when they are feeling low and no I cannot do it because you believe in them and you know they can do it and then
Mhm.
they can come out of it and then they can be successful in healing, right? And then you guys really do have that energy, this loving
Oh yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
It's actually amazing. Like it's you guys come straight from your hearts, and everything you do, it's so beautiful to watch. And I have not seen you work directly with clients at all, but the way every time we talk, you are coming from your heart. It's right there, and there's so much power in there. It's beautiful. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, how about you, Alex? Why you ended up doing this what you do?
So I think that,
Yes.
both being healers, right?
yeah, I mean, I think that like most of us that choose the healing path, it's not really something we choose. It kind of like chooses us, right? And
Yeah.
that's, I know this is
I agree. Yes.
so typically these types of things come from necessity. It's not something that's just innate in us. I think that what is innate in a lot of us is the desire to help others, but to truly understand what it takes to tap into our power, it can only come through experience, and it can only come through hardship, I believe. So listening to you guys talk, it's one of those things, to me, I'm reminded that what we're talking about at the end of the day is really empowerment. So would have to define what is empowerment. In my opinion, empowerment is really finding our center of gravity within ourselves and our connection with our body and our connection with the environment. And sometimes it takes running into a lot of dead ends before we can tap into that. It takes not finding any solutions from traditional medicine. It takes, not having your loved ones not be able to help you, and even, the most accomplished of healers not being able to help you. Once you start to limit all of your options, at the end of the day, you realize this is up to me. So it's a choice. And I think, again, that is the kind of pressure that life sometimes brings us in order to really remind us, because this goes back to when we're kids, right? I think that our natural way of being is to always seek co-regulation. When we are in distress, we cry and we reach out to our parents for comfort. But the true transformative power of the mind and the body, I think, happen when you don't have that, when you really are forced to turn that lens inward. And I think that as healers, and like you said, our role is not to heal anybody. Our role is really to create the container for that redirection of the lens to happen. So we can only walk people towards the edge, but that last step, when they finally leap off the cliff and really have to, tap into the power of their faith, or when they really have to walk through the fire and become the fire in order to overcome whatever it is they're dealing with, that's an individual thing. Nobody can do that for you. Mm-hmm. And so I think that those are some of the things that life teaches us is running into those dead ends. And it's like, all right, that's when the juicy things happen. When we give up hope, when we lose faith in the universe, when we lose faith in God, when we lose faith in other people, and we think that this is it, I'm pretty much like ready to give up on life. That's when all of a sudden, all this, like this new dimension opens up. And also, I think that bringing us to our knees, really, when we are so close to giving up on life, is when our ego becomes so small that it's like our higher self takes over. That's what unlocks this like stream of consciousness that now we're not individuals. We're not, these little people somehow separate from the universe, but the universe is flowing through us. And that is what I believe empowerment is. And that's what really unlocks the healing power of the mind and the body. So, yeah, so I've had a not my healing journey has been punctuated by, I want to say 3 major events in my life. The first one starting at age 17, where I was suicidally depressed, and I actually did try to take my life at one point. I was trying to process reality through the mind. I was a very intellectual kid and deep into some heavy philosophy and really deep into German existentialism and so forth. And during a self-guided plant medicine ceremony, I was able to overcome that. Then later on in life as an adult, I lived through the near-death experience of Desiree that is a little too deep to go into right now, but that's another thing that unlocked these new layers of reality to me that I knew it was time to get deeper into my path as a healer. And lastly, and this is really, you know, the last, what the Greeks call the katabasis, really, which is the descent, especially as it relates to a man's journey, where we lose everything and everything just comes crashing into the ashes, and it's really up to us to resurrect ourselves. That happened through a very debilitating, very serious illness that I went through for a period of 4 years. That I was pretty much incapacitated for 4 years, and it was a very excruciating experience. But little by little, I came out the other side. And so, yeah, that's really, I think, what calls us to now share these things, because they're not things that we're taught in school. Unfortunately, no one teaches us how to run our mind, how to run our bodies, and so we're very passionate about offering that to others.
Yeah, that's yeah. We all know the importance of connecting to ourselves, and sad that they don't teach us in school, right? The most important thing. So, and that's why lots of people ended up suffering, and trying to find the solution from outside, not looking inside. And so, but we're here that four of us know connecting to ourselves is the most powerful tool, right? And yeah, and then we are here because of that. Like, we found that, okay, I'm the only healer that can heal myself. Nobody can, right? And then, like, some people call us, like, four of us, healers, but I said I'm not the healer for them. They are their own healers, right? So yeah, and as soon as they realize that, that path opens up, and then they can start to heal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I completely agree with all that. Some of the things you guys have been touching on are just so beautiful, actually. It's like you don't come, I think it's a pretty rare thing historically that people are born straight out of you know, from their childhood, they are ready to go out there and be an avatar, right? Or go out there and be a gifted healer or something, right? Whatever label you want to put on them. It's we're just ordinary people. We're just like anybody, right? And we have, each one of us has been lost. And you guys have touched on it, like there's times in my life as well where I've gone through that tremendous illness and lost everything, right? You know, you lose you lose your health, you lose family, you lose home, yeah, financial support. You lose your finances because you can't work because you're so sick, right? And there's no medical, there's no answer from the standard approach, and like you said, you have to come to terms with the fact that you've got to let go of what that old person in some way. That old person is, in a real sense, it's a death and rebirth, right? When you go through that experience, and there's a transformation where, and it doesn't just happen like that. You're lost. For me, I was lost for years, so long. It was very rough, and the answers started to come at some point. I did not give up. I kept looking. That's, I guess, maybe one of the key points. I mean, Desi, you said, right, you just keep searching, looking around for answers, something that will help you move forward one little step, right?
Tiny step.
Yeah, you don't necessarily need, and it doesn't often happen that you have the solution just drop on your lap and that it's all there pre-formed, ready for you to just, say, yeah, sure, I'll take that. No, you've got to find within you the patience, the toughness, the resilience to get through all that down, right? All that downward energy from your old life that's taking you on that downward trajectory, that just because it's not going to work for you, that's not what you're meant to, that's not what the direction you're meant to go, being that person that, in our young lives, right? And that has this energy to it, and it takes us into a down, and we just get ground into the cement, basically, right? You get just all that road rash, and then you got to find a way to make a little step here, a little step there, to get yourself up off the pavement and get yourself making one little tiny bit of progress at a time. And a new person starts to show a little bit, and then it's a little bit more, and you get, I'm feeling a little better these days, right? And sometimes it goes back down, and you get back up again when you adjust, right? All kinds of stuff. It's a journey, and you get to where you are as these powerful, none of us like the word healer. I used that earlier, but like, because you're holding that space for someone when you, because that's part of what you ended up doing for yourselves, right? Holding space for yourself, letting the healing come in, because you're letting your old ego go, and then that new self comes in, and it's not the one who's like, hey, I'm going to go out and heal everybody. It's more like, I'm here, I have things I can share, and then people come and they can work with what you do, and then they learn how to heal themselves through your facilitation, right? Through that holding space, through that sharing of knowledge, and if they're ready to give up that old self in some way, then that's the way that they heal too, right? Yeah. I think that's the more typical journey, and it can happen to anybody. That's the thing. Anybody. Right?
Yeah. Like
Yeah,
us,
absolutely.
we are no different from anybody, and we suffered, and then we found a way out. We know how to heal, and we know we can heal pretty much anything, like Desiree was saying earlier, and we know that as the just normal human being, and we can do it, and we know everybody else can do it, right? It's not like we are special and we did this, right? We know how to do it. I'll teach you how to do it. It's not that. We are born with this power, and four of us know that everybody have that power. So yeah, that's why we want to share this. And you guys can do it too, right?
And that's where I think experience comes in. Is I think that's the biggest role that we can offer as space holders, is the fact that we're proof that you can do it, and that there's nothing special. I mean, it's amazing, but we tend to really like look at ourselves in general as we really feel small in general, and we have to remind ourselves that every single person out there, I don't care who it is, I don't care how many debilities they have, they are incredibly resilient beings. I mean, if we are alive today, that means that we've survived millions and millions of years of evolution. That means that we're miracles, true miracles. The fact that we were born in the first place, and the fact that we have the physical attributes that we have, and the mental capacity that we have, we are incredibly resilient beings. But sometimes it's hard to see that when you have a lot of trauma, when you have a lot of self-doubt, when you have a lot of pain and emotional wounding. It's really difficult to see that. So I think that's where the role of a space holder comes in, is in showing them that they can actually access that, and that the paths that we followed are unique to us, but they can do something similar for sure.
And I think the difference is also that when you go to somebody who's gone through it, you save a lot of time. So we have both experienced the healing of Paul and Satomi. They are incredible healers, and they actually have a technique that they can go right into your subconscious programming. Well, first of all, they figure out the juice of it. What is the thing that's holding you back that you can't see? I mean, by the end of a conversation and a psychic reading from Satomi, then you come up with that first block, and then they help to use PSYCH-K to set a new program, a new belief in there. And so it's kind of like cheating the healing process. I mean, skipping a few, a few years worth of work just by, a new technique that's available. And so I'm just huge fans of you guys. I think you guys are super powerful individually and together, especially together. But I'm really curious to hear what got you guys into your healing careers.
You want to start?
Yeah, I can start. Why I'm doing this? It's like Alex said. It's just I got put into this path. Like, what happened, kind of thing. Right? It's not like I chose to do it and it was my dream to do this kind of thing. No, this like a psychic thing.
Alex said it chooses you, right? How about that, right? And he said it already.
Yeah.
We're just now. It's actually, yeah.
So, but like this psychic thing, like my whole life, I was actually avoiding those people. Psychic people. Like, no, I'm okay. It's, no, thank you, no, thank you, no, thank you. Right? And then I didn't want to believe, and then my ego or something was just staying away from it. And then Paul came in to my life, and he's all about it, spiritual and psychic and this power. And then okay, and I was listening, and then all of a sudden one day it's just boom, and I start feeling totally different. The world is different, and then what's this? And actually I can say it's depression kind of thing, right? I don't
sort
know.
of.
I felt
it's more like you were just like shut down.
Yeah, I didn't know. Like I couldn't do anything. I get up in the morning and I was in pain, like in my heart, emotionally in pain for no reason. And what's going on? And I couldn't just. I lost everything. Like I lost not the physical thing, but I lost my heart to do anything. I didn't want to do anything. I was just in pain and I couldn't find a reason, and then realized that I was sucking up all the energy from the world around me. And then we met the psychic. It's a long story, but I'm making it short.
I made you meet her.
He literally dragged me.
A friend said that after we talked to a friend that it sounded like you're an empath, and I was like, that kind of makes sense. And so then I looked around for a meetup, because we needed some answers somewhere, right? Because there was no way you were going to get help, kind of from standard.
Yeah, and
thing.
Paul being Paul, he wouldn't take me to Western doctor, right? And then he found this group, psychic group. Do you want to go? And like, of course, no. I don't want to see anyone at that time. Even my best friends, I was staying in my home, didn't want to see anyone, didn't want to talk to anyone. And he's suggesting, let's go join this meetup, like with nobody. I don't know anyone, and it's a psychic group that I've been avoiding the whole my life. And why do you think I want to go there, right? But at the same time, I knew I had to do something to get out of this, right? And then so I went there, and it was a beautiful group.
Yeah.
It was amazing. It's not like I was having in my head, like everybody had this crystal ball and doing some
The shawls and stuff.
those, those
They're just normal people.
Yeah, normal people with big heart.
Yeah.
And very compassionate, and they understood I was in tears. Like the first day,
especially Christine.
yeah,
Right?
first day I
Yeah.
was just crying because they understood what I was going through,
Yeah.
and I didn't know anybody could describe what I'm going through, and that was a huge relief.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started to train to control this.
Well, and she pointed out that she could, you knew she was speaking the truth when she
Yeah.
said things, that it was because you were getting overwhelmed.
And it all made sense,
Yeah.
whatever she said,
Yeah.
right? So she suggested a few things, and I started doing it, and then I can be in control of whatever I'm receiving.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the same time, around the same time, he got really sick. All got really sick.
Before. That was before.
It was before?
Me first.
No, you first.
Yeah, me first.
Yeah. And then, he was very sick, like he mentioned earlier. Like he couldn't work. He was just laying down on the floor because he couldn't move.
I couldn't get it. Essentially paralyzed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then so he couldn't work, and I had to quit my job to look after him because he couldn't move, right? And then the doctor has no answers, so we start.
Yeah, that's when we go to Western medicine. When I'm something weird is with going on in my body. What's the deal? We go right away, and nothing, no answers.
They don't know.
Right? Don't know.
Do
tests, and while we're waiting for tests, I'm going downhill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we don't have anybody to help us. We have to do it on our own, and then we start doing healing.
Yes, our
on our
Sakaso
own.
approach.
Yeah. And then I was working with Christine, I can say my mentor.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then getting used to, and then I'm feel comfortable. I started to feel comfortable using my psychic ability, and then
Which takes time.
it takes time, and he loves it. So anytime he asked me, and what's going on here, and then with some doubts, I'm saying like, I feel like you have this like a past experience trauma, and it's triggering this pain. Those kind of, I start to share little bit by little bit, and then we work on that, and then do subconscious shift, and he gets better.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Just hey, how about that?
Okay. It's proving that this combination is working, and we kept doing that and applying, and he's like it's a miracle. It was a miracle, like how fast you healed.
Yeah.
Right? And by the time doctor had answer, and he was ready to diagnose him, he was already healed.
Right.
It was pretty serious illness. It's sarcoidosis.
Wow.
And it can go different ways. You can recover, but in an acute situation like that, it takes months to recover normally. Or you can kind of stay that way for the rest of your life, or it can be fatal. And I was going like a rocket right down, and using basically, essentially, it was the trauma that I experienced from my past. I had a pretty interesting upbringing, and and first part of my life. 'Cause, wasn't ideal. I'll just say that. A little stressful. And so those experiences I was carrying them around. They were still with me. That trauma was still with me. And that's what PTSD is. And it was a very, very complex case of PTSD. There's many, many different layers to it. Not just like a single event kind of thing. All that stuff, eventually it just got the better of me, and you helped me let go of it just by your gift. You're able to see what it was, and like it was like old trauma, or like you just carrying anger that I wasn't even aware of, right? Just buried anger. Just like, holy cow. Well, I mean, it was really, really important in my family to never, ever show, for me, to ever show where I was wounded, right? So I buried it. And I didn't even know it was that stuff was still down there. But you could feel it. I had no clue. I thought I was doing fine, but you're like, no, something is not right here.
Yeah, that was my stumbling block in healing too. Like I tried psychotherapy and I was in such a bad situation. And they're like, so what's going on? And I'm like, I don't know. Everything's a mess. And they're like, well, tell me about it. So I tell them about it, and then I give them my money, and then I leave and I'm just on fire. I'm upset. I'm hurt. I'm stressed. Like it just felt worse. So you go in there and you share yourself and you don't even know what's really wrong. Everything's wrong. So, the only way I ended up healing is I did find a mystic who could see through to what I was really experiencing. Because I think when the trauma is so compounded, like, troubled family, and then losing siblings, and then illnesses, and then past lives, it's like all this stuff compounds and complicates it so that you don't even know what's wrong. You just know it's all wrong. Like it really helps to have someone with vision.
Absolutely. And I think that goes back to when you were talking about the Sakaso method that Paul and Satomi use. And, I think there's like two stumbling blocks for traditional psychotherapy. And thankfully, that has radically changed in the past few years because of modern trauma theory and what it's teaching us about how really the body has to be incorporated. It has to, at some point, come into the equation because trauma is carried in the body, but trauma is also carried in the subconscious. And so that's been traditionally the difficult part about traditional talk therapy, is that it could take many, many years to uncover the real root of the problem. Now, that's not to say that there's not great healing in the simple co-regulation of having someone hold space for you as you process verbally. But the problem is that a lot of times, like I said, especially some of the deeper developmental traumas, it seems to be a survival mechanism that they are held under the conscious mind. They're held in the subconscious. So we're completely unaware of it. Yeah. And that's where the ability of the therapist comes in, and their experience and their, even intuition to help us uncover the root of that. But again, if the therapy stays at the talk intellectual level, it can only go so far. Yeah. We just talked to somebody today that, has been going to talk therapy for 30 years and she hasn't really found any benefit. So I think that's where, methods like the ones that you use or the ones that we use with shamanism come in. There are more direct and expedited approaches to tackle first of all, identify what the root of the problem is, and then using methods of tapping into the body and tapping into the subconscious to actually rewrite that, to actually reframe those experiences. And so I just don't think we have 30 years to waste, and especially with as quickly as things are evolving in the world, there's better methods. We need to be more laser focused and to be able to overcome these blockages. And I think that, methods like the ones that you guys use and does that, they do that beautifully. You identify the root issue, and then you provide tools for actually healing that.
Mhm.
And there is something just, I believe, just in the overall Western culture that we tend to only look at the symptom, whether we're looking at physical ailments or mental ailments. We look at the symptom. Addiction, for instance. We try to treat the addiction as though that's the problem, but it's
Yeah.
never the case. Addiction is a symptom of a much deeper problem, usually stemming from childhood trauma. So unless we pinpoint that and we have the tools to rewrite that experience and express that the stored energy through the body in some form, some somatic form, it could take a long time. So we're all about having more effective and efficient methods, and because the
Saving time.
sooner we can come into our power, the sooner we can be of service to other people. Even folks, like I was saying, a lot of us, I tend to think that this is a normal, healthy human desire to help other people and to want to be of service. But until we truly do our own shadow work and heal our own issues, we can only go so far. So that needs to come first. Heal our stuff, step into our power, then we can start to hold space for other people.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, like you talked about alcoholic and psychosis he has and cancer. Those are not the cause, right? Those are symptoms, and why you became cancer is there is a cause, right? And it could be from your past life, could be from this life, but something triggered and it's creating this illness, right? And they don't see it, and you have to heal this illness. No, you have to go in deeper and heal the wound that you're carrying in subconscious, and then you can heal as a whole.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
that's our approach, like you guys' approach and our approach, and what I see, like, and I believe you guys see that too, when people come with like a suffering and they're in pain, I do see their authentic self, like a powerful self, and I can see it underneath their pain, right? And they can't see it, they can't feel it, but I can feel it, and I can see it, and then you have it, right? And then our job is help them to remember, to reconnect.
That's it right there.
And then like you know that when you see clients and you can feel it, their power. That's why you can help, right? If you don't see it, like I've never seen anybody who doesn't have that power. But even like it doesn't matter who they are, underneath in the center they have this power, the healing power, that they can do anything, they can heal anything, and we feel it instantly, and we just help them to remember, right? And then they become their whole self, and that's amazing. This is one of the biggest reason why I do what I do. Is it's so amazing to be a witness and be part of their healing journey. And it's like and when they come out of this pain, and then they heal their wound and past trauma, it's incredible moment. It doesn't happen in one moment, but sometimes they feel it in a moment, right? And they start crying, or they have huge smile that they haven't had, and that's so it fills my energy. And oh my God, thank you very much for letting us part of it, right? So, and we know everybody has that, right? And it's not special person has it.
Mhm.
Everybody.
It's intrinsic to being human. That is
Yeah.
the simple mechanism of the mind body connection. But I was actually just talking to Desiree about this yesterday. I think that our challenge sometimes is to hold other people's perspective with compassion, because what we're talking about is a difference in worldview. Worldview is not necessarily something that's always taught. It's something that is also, it has to do with life experience. And in the West, we don't generally see things like that often. So unless you have personally experienced, I'm going to call it miracles. Okay. I'm going to say, there are certain things that don't go with the laws of physics that we're taught. So unless we've personally experienced that, or at least witnessed it in somebody, we don't know that that's possible. So in the West, I think that we tend to give our power away to other people, to experts, to people in white lab coats, and it's our culture, it's our worldview. And unless we have a personal experience, like I said, or I mean, you guys have played a really huge role in my healing, and especially this last journey that I went through. And we both, you guys saw it, I felt it, how healing, the making that like mental switch in something that was, in my case was ancestral, can have miraculous uh, effects in the physical body, right? And Desiree and I have seen that over and over and over again, not just in ourselves, but in other people. Today, this morning, we got together with a friend of ours who, was one of the first people that we guided in ceremony, and he was able to overcome a very advanced case of prostate cancer in only a few hours. So that type of thing really changes the way that you view reality, and it makes you understand. And at least if you don't know that you have it, you at least know that it's possible, so you can put the effort and the discipline and the ongoing, do your ongoing daily practice to get there. But most people don't have that. So we also have to be compassionate about that.
Yeah.
It's like, we've all heard of the work that, for instance, Joe Dispenza does, and he'll tell you sometimes recoveries happen spontaneously, or more often than not, it's something that happens over time. So you really have to stick with it and do your work day in and day out, and little by little we'll start to come out of it and start to like manifest, because we're dealing with the subtle realms, with the mind and the energy body. It takes some time for that healing, that rearrangement to happen before it starts to actually influence the physical body. So we need to know where we're headed.
Yeah, that is
and
important.
have
It's
faith.
like you have to believe that you can heal before you can heal.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. You have to be ready. We have question from the audience. Can I share this
Yes,
one?
please.
Okay. So beliefs create reality. So what if I don't believe my past life could bring in sickness, illness to my present reality? Right. So it's very good question. And you don't think you believe doesn't mean your subconscious uh, doesn't believe either. That's the tricky part, right? In here, consciously you don't believe, and you put lots of people put effort and not believing it, but the subconscious is totally different, and then you are not aware what subconscious is thinking and believing, right? So that's why you don't think you believe it, but subconscious might do believe. That's how sickness happens. Doesn't mean that you can heal from it. Yes, you can heal from it, right? It's just we want to tap into a different state, not just what you think. So that's the tricky part. And once you did go into the subconscious mind, a whole new world opens up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what this is a great question, and it speaks to what I would call a very common misunderstanding of the law of attraction. It's the law of attraction is always working. It's not a positive force, a negative force. It's neutral. It's just whatever we are, whatever we're putting energy into, whatever we're focusing on, and what Alex touched on there, whatever our worldview is, whether that's a conscious worldview or a subconscious worldview. So that's we're putting energy into that all the time, and we're actually maintaining that actively, right? By getting confirmation all over the place. We ask people questions and say, right, right, because that we're maintaining our worldview that way, and in a lot of cases, we're doing ourselves a disservice with that. But if I mean, it's actually, I'll just give you an example. It's remarkable what we're not aware of. I cannot tell you how many times I have walked into the room and I am feeling great. I'm in a good mood. I'm happy. I'm working. I'm getting lots of stuff done. And Satomi will be like,
are we disclosing our personal
dead? Well, she'd be like, she's giving me all the messages that she doesn't want me to be around in her own, the politest way she can. She won't just say that, nothing like that. She'll just kind of give me the body hint, right? And I can tell. And a number of times that has pissed me off. Oh my God, because I know what it's about. But what are you talking about? I'm doing fine. Why are you bringing a problem into this? And the reality is, like, just 15 minutes later, I will start to have some kind of reaction to something, whatever it is, right? Something that I ate previously, whatever it is. There's, different things I've had issues with that. And, or just like something I'm processing, so I'm just processing something I did, yesterday or the day before. I made progress, I did some self-development, I made progress, but the energy hasn't processed yet. And Alex and Desi, I know you know what I'm talking about here. You guys are experts in this stuff, but and helping people work with that. But I'm completely unaware, 100% unaware, and I'm thinking that you're the one causing the problem in the situation. You're confronting me with it, and I'm just like, where's this coming from? And then 15 minutes later, I'll actually know. Yeah. It's crazy because I have no clue, and then 15 minutes later, I know exactly what's going on. After having learned and gone through this a few times, it took me a little longer the first few times. I'll just say that. Yeah. 16 minutes. No.
Yeah, it's not like him processing is bothering me or anything. It's just depends, right? If he's processing and just letting go, and that's great. But when it happens, sometimes the anger, old anger comes up.
It's just activated, that old anger.
Angry and frustrated and
underneath. Unaware, completely unaware. I'm on the surface, and my awareness, my conscious awareness, my conscious self is in a good mood. Subconsciously, totally different story, right? And that's just an example of how we can not believe something with our conscious mind and convince ourselves of something. We can convince the world, try to convince ourselves the world is this way. Subconscious, it can be 180 degrees the other way, and we can attract what we don't want based on what our subconscious is saying.
And guys, like, I just like to offer something, John, something, personal story that actually relates to what I was talking about a minute ago in terms of Paul and Satomi. I'm the type of guy that I've always been extremely open-minded and have had quote unquote paranormal experiences since I was a kid. So I've always, my frame of reality has always been quite malleable. That said, I'm not someone that just accepts things as fact by merely believing. Like, I really have to experience it. And there's certain things in my life that I know for a fact because of experience that are true. And that, you could hold a gun to my head and you couldn't get me to admit otherwise, because I know from personal experience that they're true. For instance, one is angelic beings. I have had a personal experience with an angelic being. I know they exist. There's other things, on the other hand, that I haven't had a true like one-on-one visceral experience with. And one of those is past lives. I got to be completely honest with you. And this is after a lifetime of following a spiritual path and spiritual studies. And even after many years of already having offered the medicine ceremonies for hundreds of people, I was still open to the idea, but have never really truly had a personal experience with it. And this was, I guess this was 2 years ago, right, guys? It wasn't last year, 2 years ago. I was dealing with a health condition. I'm not going to go into it too much, but let's just say that at that night, I was my skin. I was having a condition that looked like I had been burnt, like 2nd to 3rd degree burns, blistered all over. It was a really, really gruesome condition to be in. And Satomi did a reading for me. And she said that this was actually a manifestation of something that had happened in the past life. Again, normally I would have been open to that idea, but I couldn't prove it one way or another because I wasn't feeling it viscerally at a personal level. However, she was about the 5th or 6th person already at that time that had tapped into the exact same thing. So it makes you wonder, maybe there's something to it, right? So my conscious mind was skeptical, but it was receptive enough to allow and go through with the process to try to do some subconscious reprogramming. I don't think any of us right now would claim to understand the subconscious. I think it's something that we can't truly understand, especially because we tend to see it kind of in a very limited way. You know, you've got the conscious mind and the subconscious, and they're these two little boxes. It doesn't work like that. The subconscious mind is actually collective. So it's a collective field that we all have access to. So it's a very complex thing. But the conscious mind needs to allow itself to really like let the filters loose a little bit to be able to dive into that subconscious field and be able to do some tinkering. So not to make a long story short, but essentially after a very long and in-depth PSYCH-K session with them that dealt with this past life thing, and then afterwards I continued to do some deep meditations with the aid of ketamine, actually, and binaural beats, and really tapping into that subconscious field to heal some of the things that I had been guided to heal by Paul and Satomi. I woke up the next morning with baby perfect skin. It was from a medical perspective, from a biological perspective, almost impossible. Like skin doesn't heal that quickly, but yet I saw that happen. So again, without me saying, yeah, I believe in past lives or whatever, I simply just allowed the process to happen. And lo and behold, something happened because it had a very physical manifestation.
And something else that's very interesting about the human body and our spirit and our soul, how we come into the body, supposedly, I mean, this is what I've heard, is that only a tiny fraction of our being actually fits inside the body. So what we see here and now is just a tiny bit, and then we're like stories high, we're connected to everything. The fields of our bodies actually extend into each other. I mean, you know, I think they said there's like 8 layers that they can measure, but you know, that's just what we can measure. So it's really just this infinite field.
It's infinite, for sure.
Yeah. So that we are just simply connected. So there's a lot that we can't see or know that it still is interacting with us every day.
Yeah, absolutely.
That means we are unlimited, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Then we gonna try wrap up here.
Mhm.
It's been
We can keep
beautiful
going.
amazing 1 hour with you guys, and thank you so much for sharing all the stuff. Is there anything you want to share from your side, what you do before we end this live?
In terms of the type of guidance that we can offer people and that we are offering people, we still do the in-depth, Peruvian traditional ceremonies, but we also offer guidance with the embodiment practices. So one of the things that we find to be extremely important is to be able to have a daily practice that revolves around self-regulation. So this actually gets out a little bit out of the new age category and really focuses on biology and what are the tools and the practices that we can use to regulate our nervous system and get really good at, activating and down regulating our nervous system to be able to navigate through stressful situations. So we use a combination of bodybuilding or weightlifting. We use meditation. We use yoga, bioenergetic release techniques, which are ways of getting emotion to be expressed through the body. And we use breath work. And another thing that we find to be of extreme importance, and especially these days with what's happening in the world right now, is nutrition. We consider that to be one of the most basic foundations of health, and yet a lot of people don't put a lot of attention to it. So we offer custom nutrition guidance that is not only gives you a completely customized caloric breakdown and macronutrient breakdown to be able to have a little bit more power in terms of manipulating your body composition, but really and also boosting your immunity, which is, like I said, it's essential right now. We can't afford to get sick, so we're offering our guidance in that sense.
And how would people find you?
FirstMemory.one. FirstMemory.one.
Perfect. That's amazing. Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you. This has been amazing.
Yeah, and
Really honored to have you.
Yeah, some other questions, but we don't have time to answer the question anymore. So if you guys can put the question in that video, we post it again in the comments. We can answer to your questions. But yeah, thank you very much. It was wonderful time with you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys.
See you soon. We'll do this again.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
All right,
Love you. Bye.
bye.